Hello and welcome to Robot Framework tutorial. In this tutorial, we are going to learn about the keywords that are available in Robot Framework Selenium library to work with the lists on any web automation. So Robot Framework Selenium library provides a lot of keywords that you can use to work with the lists, and here on my screen I'll show you the keywords that are available in Robot Framework Selenium library to work with the lists. Now, before we get into details of these keywords, let's understand first about the single select list and multi-select list. So what I have taken here is this is the request demo page of Sugar CRM, and on this page there you can see the company size is a list, right? It's a drop down which contains certain values here, right? But at one particular time you can select only one option from this list. So these type of lists are single select lists. Okay, and when we talk about the multi-select list, here on this particular W3 schools page, I have selected the multi-select list. Here you can see that I can choose multiple options from this list. So if I just press shift and select multiple options, I am able to select multiple options, and then I can also deselect, right? So these are multi-select lists and single select list. So Robot Framework provides the keywords to perform operation on both type of lists. If your application is having single select list, you can use single select list keywords that are available. And if you are dealing with the multi-select lists, you can use the multi-select list keywords. So I'll explain all these keywords and then we'll walk through the demo with the actual working code. So the first keyword is get list item. So pretty self-explanatory. It returns all the labels or values of the selection list locator. So whatever list locator you will provide, it will return all the list item values. Okay. Then get selected list label will be basically returning the label of selected option. So it will select the label of the selected option. Then get selected list value will return the value. Okay, so label will return the list label, selected list label, and value will return the selected list value of the selected option from the list locator. Now select from list by index. So these are all three. If you see, by index, by label, and by value are the select list option. So if it is a single select list, then you can use these three options to select the values in the list either by index or by label or by value. I'll explain you how you can work through the index, label, or value, right? So for example, here, if you just on this request demo page, if you right click on this list and click on inspect in the Chrome browser, then here you can see this is the select with a class, and these are all the value with all the options in this particular list. So value of the first item is level 1. Okay, value of the second item, so you can see this value tag here, that value attribute here, that is basically the value. Okay, and then you have the label. So label is nothing but this whole highlighted. So whatever visible text is there in this particular list is the label, and the index is basically sort of array, and it's similar. So it starts from 0. So if you select index 0, it will select 1 to 10 employees. Then index 1 is 11 to 50 employees, and it goes on like that. Okay, so if you choose by index, by label, or by value, depending on what you want to provide in the selection, it will select the option from the list. Then select all from list is basically when you have the multi-select list. So because in single select list, it won't be able to select all, because single select list doesn't provide selection of all the options. So select all from list will basically be helpful in these sort of lists where you have to select all the items in this particular list. Then coming back, get selected list label. So whatever selected list is there, it will return the label. So this keyword get selected list label will return labels of selected option from the selection list locator. Then get selected list values will return the values. It will be similar to the labels. It will return the values. Then unselect options are also there on select keywords, which will basically unselect the list by the index, and unselect by label, and unselect by value. So it's similar as the selection that we have seen. Then unselect all from list basically again will be helpful in the multi-select lists. Similarly, unselect from list by index is helpful in the multi-select list. Then list selection should be, it is the verification that you need to perform. So list selection should be, so for example, you want to select 1 to 10 employees and then want to verify that particular selection has been successful. Then you will use list selection should be, and you will provide the locator and what option you are expecting. Next keyword is list selection. List should have no selection. So if you are verifying that the particular list on page should have no selections once the page loads, then you use this particular keyword. Then page should contain list. Very straightforward, that on this page there should be particular list or multiple lists. You provide the locators accordingly. So for example, there are two lists. You use this keyword twice to verify that the list locator that you have specified, there are lists available on that particular page. Then page should not contain list. It's opposite of the contain. So it's verifying that on this particular page there are no lists available. Okay, so this is very brief introduction of what all keywords are available in the Robot Framework Selenium library to work with lists. Now let's go ahead and understand the code and see how you can utilize these keywords and write the code. So here you can see in my PyCharm I have created a file working with lists.robot, and I'm utilizing all the list keywords and showing you how you can actually work with the lists. So here I'm just opening the browser, which the top 4 steps are very familiar, would be very familiar to you till now. So opening browser, I have defined the variable for the URL and then the browser in which I'm going to open. So I'm passing those variables here. Then maximizing the browser and then scrolling the element into view because we want to see what's happening in the list. Then the keyword that I'm using to work with the list is page should contain list. So the first keyword, I'm verifying that this particular page that I'm loading, which is Sugar CRM request demo page, contains the list. Okay, so and then I'm providing the path or the locator for that particular list. So let's go to the page here, and how you can find the list value. You just right click on the list, okay, and it will open the element, and you can right click and copy the XPath. So quickly you can do that, and if you want to verify the XPath, you just do Control F, Command F in macOS and Control F in Windows, and it will open the search box. You can paste that particular XPath here, and it will highlight that particular item in yellow, and you can see 1 of 1 is selected. So you can use this XPath in your script. Okay, so that's the locator. So let's go back to PyCharm, and this is the XPath that I have utilized here. Now the next keyword is page should not contain lists. So this keyword will verify that a particular page doesn't contain the list that you have specified as an XPath here. Now here most of the places I have used XPath, but you can use other locators as well. So like ID, name, CSS selector, depending on what is suitable and what is available uniquely on that particular page, you can use that particular locator. If you want to learn a lot more deep details about how to write the dynamic XPath and CSS selector, I have a complete tutorial series available on the YouTube channel, so you can follow that as well. Now the next keyword that I want to cover is get list items. So this keyword will give you the list items or all the list items that are available in that particular list identified by the locator that you provide here. So here I have provided the XPath locator. So um, it will give me all the items available in the list. So for example, here you can see all these items, 1 to 10 employees. These are all items available in this particular list. All these will be available with that particular keyword. Then get selected list label. What this will do is, for example, you have selected 1 to 10 employees, it will give you the next keyword will give you the label for the selected item, and I've stored it into the list label. Then get selected list value will give the value that has been selected in the list. So let me copy this XPath here. And please remember that any keyword in robot framework needs to be followed by 2 spaces. So 2 spaces and then the locator. Okay. So list selection should be is basically you are verifying that this particular list when the page is loaded, what is the selection by default, or after the selection. Say for example, you have selected certain value, and then if you want to verify that particular selection is successful, you can use this list selection should be keyword followed by 2 spaces and the locator and whatever value you are expecting. Okay, so for example, here I'm just verifying once the page loads, the selection by default is always company size. Okay, so it by default it should be company size, because if I load this page, you will see that there is only company size selection at the moment, right? um, then select from list by index. So this is the selection keyword. What you need to do is you need to provide the keyword followed by 2 spaces, the locator of the list, and the index. Now what this keyword will do is it will select the second item from the list, because index starts with 0. So 1 will select the second item in the list. And then I am using get selected list label. So whatever selection has been done in this particular step, I am getting the label for the selected item and storing it into the label1 variable, and which will print it. So we'll verify that the selection is correct. Then select from list by label. So first one was by index, second one is by label, and third is by value. Okay, so we have seen the index. So let's go back and see the value. And so if I right click on this list and expand this list, so you can see the value is level 1, level 2, and the index starts with 0 and progresses further. And then you have the other is the label. Okay, so these all 1-10 employees, 11-50 employees are the labels. Okay, so you can use any of these 3 keywords to select the items from the list. Then it comes, so till now we were working in the single select list. Now comes to multi select list, where you can select multiple items. What I have done is I have used, because on this particular page there are no multi select lists, so I am going to, so I have used the keyword go to. So what this go to keyword will do is it will directly, without closing the browser, on the same browser it will navigate to the new URL, which is basically to demo the multi select list, and then select frame, because this particular page has multiple frame. This is 1 frame, this is 2nd frame, so I have to move the control to this particular 2nd frame to perform operation on this multi-select list. So I have used select frame. So this is again another keyword available in robot framework Selenium library. Then I'm using select all from list. So what I'm doing is, the first time I'm using the locator of this particular list and selecting all the items. So with this keyword, all these Volvo, Saab, Opel, and Audi, all these items will be selected. Then sleep of 2 seconds. So I'm using, if you see this particular code, there are sleeps everywhere, right? So this is not a good practice, but to demo the actual working of these keywords, I have used this. I'll show you what is the better way of putting, like the weights, implicit and explicit weight in further tutorial. Now the next keyword is get selected list labels. So for example, here I have selected all the list items in multi-select list. What this get selected list labels will do is it's similar to label get selected list label that we have used, right? So here you can see get selected list label, and the other is get selected list labels, which is for the multi-select lists. It will get the labels of all the selected items and will store into the this list labels variable, and we'll see that into the results. Now the next keyword is unselect from list by value. Okay, so this is to unselect the value from the list. There are three similar ones, so by value, by index, and by label. So the keyword, two spaces, the locator of the list, and the value that you want to unselect. Okay, so again, the locator, two spaces, and the value. If you're using by index, then two spaces, the locator of the list, two spaces, and the index. Sorry. Okay. Then if you are trying to unselect from the list by label, then you have to provide the label accordingly, whatever label is available. The next keyword is get selected list values. So whatever list values are being selected, or whatever items are selected in the list, this keyword get selected list values will get the values of all those selected items and store it into the list variable that I have defined. Then the next one is unselect all from list. So for multi-select lists, what this keyword will do is you just provide the keyword, two spaces, and the locator of the list. It will unselect all the items from the list. Then the last keyword that we want to cover is list should have no selections. So this is the verification point. So after you have unselected all from the list, you need to verify that there are no selections, right? So in your automation, there will be many scenarios where you'll be performing the operation on the UI and then doing the verification. So this is the verification that no items are selected in a particular list. So list should have no selections, two spaces, and the locator of the list. Then it will verify, it will make sure that this particular list has no selection and give you the results accordingly. And the last keyword is closing the browser, which is basically to finish our test. So these are all the keywords that are available for the list operation in robot framework. Let's execute this um, robot file and see the results. Okay, so I've executed the test. It will open Chrome browser, open the URL, maximize the page, and will scroll down. You'll see 1 to 10 employees got selected, then 51 to 100. So this is basically based on ID, value, etc. And then it moved to multi-select list, selected all the items, unselecting items one by one, and then it will unselect all, and then it will verify that all of the tests have passed, right? So let's analyze the results. Okay, so here you can see that one test is passed, 0 failed. All right, so here let's open the report. So right click, open in Firefox. So let's see how the report looks like, and we'll analyze all the keywords there. Okay, so all the tests have passed, it's all green. So now you can see that page should contain list, right? So it has verified that the particular page contains the list that we have provided. Page should not contain list has passed as well, because there is no list with this particular locator on the page. Get list items, you can see that it is returning you all the list items that are available in the list, right? So you can see all the list items are being returned and stored into the list variable all items. Okay, now if you want to perform multiple further operations, loops, etc., you can do after this, right? But this keyword will return all the values in the list locator. Then get selected list label, right? So by default, this is what the selected list label was, and it has returned that particular list. Get selected list value, so there is no value that is being for this selection, there is no value, so it has returned null there. Then list selection should be, so this is verifying that by default what selection should be, or this is basically the verification point. So for example, you have selected an item in the list and you want to verify that the selection is matching to what you are passing. Okay, so list selection should be whatever locator and what you want to verify. So it has verified that this list has option company size star selected, right? So current page contains this particular list. Then select from list by index, so it has selected by index that has been provided here, right? Whatever index are provided, so it has selected that. And at this particular index, the second item is 1 to 10 employees. So what I have done is get selected list label. So after the selection, this get selected list label will get the label of the selected item, which is 1 to 10 employees that got selected. Then select from list by label, so I'm providing the label that needs to be selected, and get selected list label. So you can see the selection is successful and it has returned the selected label. Then again select by value, and the value that I have provided is level 5, and at level 5 value what is selected is basically 251 to 500 employees. Okay, then it went to the multi-select list, so select all from list, right? So it has selected all the items from the list. Then I have used get selected list labels keyword, right? So you can see all the labels have been returned and stored in the list variable list labels, right? So Volvo, Saab, Opel, Audi, all these labels are there. Then I've started unselecting, so unselected by value, provided the value Audi, and it has unselected successfully. Then unselected the first value, the value at index 1, then unselected by label. Then I have got the keyword get selected list values. Okay, so first one was get selected list labels. So label you can see is O is caps, OPEL, right? And the value is lowercase. So the second, this keyword will get the values and store it into the list variable. So here at this particular step, only one value was selected, or one item was selected in this list. So that is why you can see that list values return only one item here. Then unselected all from list, so nothing was selected. So with this keyword, when you use unselect all from list and the locator, it will unselect all the items from the list, and then list should have no selection will basically verify that the particular list doesn't have any selection, and then close the browser. So this is basically how your results file will look like. And when you're working with lists or utilizing these keywords, how you will be able to utilize these and make sure that your automation, if it contains lists or multi-select lists, how you are going to deal with those lists and perform the operation with those lists. So that's pretty much all about working with lists in Robot Framework. Hope you liked the tutorial. Thank you very much for watching.